Mai ngā awa ki ngā moana ki te whenua ki ngā kāinga ki ngā tāngata tai atu ki ngā tihitapu o ngā maunga. Tēnei, a puke rau, puke rau, puke rau. E ngā mana, e ngā reo rauranga tirama, tēnā rā koutou katoa, nau mai haere mai ki tēnei hōtaka e kia nei, he puke rau. Ko patamu tēnei tō kaikau e kōrero mō tēnei whakaaturanga, e kawe atu i a koe tētahi whakaaturanga motuhake, e whakaatu ana i wētahi o ngā marae, puta no i te taitoka rau, me te kohi ngā kōrero tia ko pāpāhongia i runga i tēnei whakaaturanga i te tau ko pahure, me tēnei tau anō hoki. No reire i tēnei rā, ka whakaatu atu ngā marae o Ohaaki ki roto o Hokianga, me Parahaki ki roto i te pokahu o Mangakahia. No reira noho mai, a ta whakarongo mai. I tēnei rangi e kōrero ana hau ki taku manuhiri e pāna ki tōna marae, a koia ko tētahi o ngā uri no te marae o Ohaaki. No reira e kōrero ana māua e pāna ki ngā take o tōna marae, me ngā kaupapa kōrero, ngā mea katoa e pāna ki tōna marae. Nā reira, without further ado, ka hoatu au te rākau kōrero ki taku manuhiri mo te rānei. Māna e whakamōhio ko wai ia, nōhea hoki ia, no reira, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe te rangatira e pita. Nā koe te honore kia hara mai au ki te kōrero kia koutou, te hunga whakarongo mō tā mātou marae ki Ohaaki, ki Pawarenga. Nā reira, tinapa me tāti hau ki te pepeha o Ohaaki, tētahi o ngā pepeha. Ko hine rā kei te kaitiaki o Ohaaki. He maunga noho nei te whai a rangatira. E rere ana te mauri o te awa o Pawarenga, ko maru o te huia me te urunga mau tonu ngā whare nui, tūtonu. Ko te puna o te ora te whare whakanoa i te tangata, ko te uri o tai te hapu, ko te au pauri me te raroa ngā iwi, kātau, ngā mihi o te wā kia koutou. He mihi anō tēnei ki te taha o tupuna matua, Wiripō, ko Wiripō te tupuna o tō mātou nei whare tupuna, maru o te hui, o te wāhi o Ohaaki, aroha mai. Ka moi a Wiripō i a Iriaka, ka puta ko te waipauri. Ka moia te waipauri i a Hera Cochrane, ka puta ko Ewa. Ka moia Ewa i a Tahi Rūrawhe, ka puta ko Hori. Ka moia Hori Rūrawhe i a Maraea Hunya, ka puta ko Harata. Ka moia Harata i a Frank Herbert, ka puta ko te kai kōrero nei, ko Maraea Herbert Pickering. I moia hau i tētahi o ngā Pickering, i haka hoki. Ka puta wā maua nei uri, ko Mihirangi, ko Kaharau, Hunia, Manaki, me Maui. Nei rā hau he uri mokapuna no te kāinga o Pawarenga, no ngā marae e toru, ko Morehu, Ohaaki, me Taiao, engari ko te kaupapa kōrero o te rānei, ko Ohaaki. Nā reira, he mihi anō tēnei kia koutou te hunga whakarongo. Tēnā koe pita.
Te ora, tēnā koe Maraea. Hariko ana te ngākau ki te whakarongo ki tō pēpeha me etahi o whakapapa. And just so you know, it was one of a good friend of mine in my rōpū who appointed you as a kai kōrero for your marae, ko Tui Rudolph tira.
Oh, tēnā koe. Kia ora Tui.
Aira, so today we're talking about Ohaaki Marae up in Pawarenga. So me tīmata I konei pēr me taku pātai tuatahi, when was the marae first built or established?
Kia ora. Ki taku whakapai, te wharenui a maru o te huia, I hanga I muara I te tau 1912 te kaumārua. Nā reira, I mua mai tēnā, kore roa I mua mai, engari I mua mai te 1912, ne? I haka tū tērā hei, tērā whare hei hōhipira, mo te mate uruta I Tauawa, so 1918, we all were aware of, and especially with COVID, I suppose it really made things come to surface about over 100 years ago. Our whare tupuna maru o te huia was also used as a hospital base for the flu epidemic or the influenza epidemic that happened in 1918. So I believe that our whare was built prior to 1912. And of course, part of the history of maru o te huia is that Ruanui was the rangatira, or is the rangatira of Māmari Waka, which we associate our whare, our marae to that waka. And of course, Ruanui had tamariki, and one of them was maru o te huia. So we have that history there, and ka heke, ka kōrero ki ngā uri whakatupu, hei whakaki te kite, kia mōhio mai rātou he uri no ngā rangatira. The whare kai te puna o te ora was built in the 1980s, and then of course our new whare, we have a beautiful new whare, new and beautiful grounds. Te urunga mau tonu was completed in 1997. But prior to that, with the cyclone bowler that happened, both our marae were devastated with the flood and the effect that had on our marae. We actually closed our marae for about 10 or 11 years so that we could recoup and rebuild from that tragedy of having a huge and diabolical flood that happened with Cyclone Bowler. So lots and lots of things have happened for our marae, and I can't help but stop and acknowledge all of those of our tupuna and our people who have helped rebuild our marae from where it used to be to now. And so, stopping and thanking those of our trustees, our kanis, our tupuna, our tohunga from Mairano. And so we are part of that. We are part of that whole sewing of together. We are the next generation of keeping those not only memories but the mahi that goes along with keeping our marae ora.
Oh, ai, kia ora.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing is marae ora, and especially in a contemporary time where, life gets busy for everybody, and we see now a lot of our people who are living in towns are now all looking for their pepeha and their roots and their whakapapa. So we see a lot of people coming back or asking for those details. So we really try and encourage people to physically come back and touch and smell and see and actually feel that wairua of each of those elements.
Kia ora, yeah.
Yeah, so kia ora, there's a little bit of a background anyway.
No, that's quite a lot. Nā pai, tēnā koe. Me paku whakataa ai tāua I tēnei wā, ka hoki mai ki wēnei kōrero amuri ake I ngā whakatairanga. Hei tautoko mai, hei kīna ki wēnei o ngā kōrero, anei rā ko te rōpū o hokianga, no te tau 2012, I roto I ngā whakataitai ārohe mo te tai tokerau. Nō reira mau tonu mai.
tēnā koutou e te whānau. Tēnā koutou i rotinga e tini ahua tanga o te wā. Ngā mihi ki o tātou aitua maha, ko whetūrangi tia. Haere, haere, haere atu rā. Ka hoki kia tātou, te kanuhi ora, e pīkau nei ngā tikanga o tātou mātua tūpuna. Kia kaha, kia mano anu. Tēnei mātou, te ropua hokianga, ko tai ki te tautoko, te karanga o te rā, ara, te mahi a tā neroro. I runga i te papatū wai wai, a ngā puhi e!
Huki mai ki ngā kōrero ki Wainganui a Māua ko te whae a Maraea. E kōrero ana Māua e pāna ki ngā kaupapa katoa i tū ki tōna marae o Ohaaki. Nō reira, are taringa mai. Beautiful kōrero, you know, I've spoken to quite a range of different marae, a few marae now, in regards to this program, and a lot of the marae, similar to your guys, were either a hall or a kura, or in your guys' case, a hospital. You know, and then kahuri hei marae.
Kia ora, thank you, Peter. Ki taku whakapai ko Ohaaki te marae tuatahi o Pawarenga.
Aye.
And whilst we have 3 beautiful marae, which we all whakapapa to, there is no doubt that there is connection to all 3 marae,
Aye.
and there's history around that as well. And so you're right, 2 of our marae were halls, were dance halls, and you hear all those stories, dance halls and matchmaking places, and where they rode horses, or all those kinds of stories that are still around from our kanis today.
Yeah.
And it's not until you show photos, perhaps older photos, of when they used to be halls where it triggers memories of our kranis. So, you know, we have our 95-year-old kuia who's still with us, and
wow.
it's really, and it's amazing that she still holds those memories of when she was a little girl going to the halls. Engari iai nei ko huri hei marae, and it's beautiful. We're very privileged and blessed to have 3 marae that we can go to.
Ka pai, tika. You are very lucky. So, talking about memories and that your kuia had of her time in that area, what's some of your memories of you growing up i runga i tō marae and you know, what your old people used to do in your time?
Tēnā koe. I was very blessed to be brought up, and I don't think it's an unusual story, when you are brought up in your auntie's home or your uncle's home, where you call your, you know, that's your second home or your third home. So I was blessed to be brought up with my mum's sister as well, my mum's sister and her brother-in-law, and Maraea and Sid Waipori. And so, you know, as well as my mum and dad, but my second parents, they would always go to the marae, and I would see my paps building, you know, and this is where I'm grateful for their characteristics and their integrity, where they would take us to the marae and work and not want for anything, but you do it out of love for your marae. And so I think in terms of memories, I have grown up now knowing how to really scrub the corners of the marae lino floor. My mama was a stickler for. So sometimes when the mop goes in the corners, it leaves these not always good clean looks.
Yeah.
So we would come behind the cleaning and scrub it again and clean it again. And that was my mama. She was a stickler for making things nice and clean and ready for the next manuhiri. And I suppose that's part of that manaakitanga. And she was a worker, you know. I think of it now where we would have to pay, I don't know, $500 for maybe the septic guy to come out to us. So that'd be from Kaitaia or Kirikiri. But she would just get in there and unblock things and just do it. Almost, I think she might have invented the Nike thing, just do it. And that was the same with Pap as well. He was a very humble man. Didn't say very much, but when he spoke, people listened. But he spoke with his hands in terms of what he built.
Right.
So he was part of the creation of Te Urunga Mautonu, and he took young men at that time who didn't have employment, and so that would have been in the early 80s. Who didn't have employment, and he would have work at his place. He was also a carver and a very talented carpenter. So he would take these young men under his wing and show them how to build. Wow. And so, you know, that's leadership to me. When I really love leadership, and I observe people's skills and characteristics around that. And to me, those two people really stick out for me. No bias, of course. And then I come to my mum, who is another realm again, where she, when you come to Ohaaki Marae, no mai haramai, everybody. When you come to Ohaaki Marae, you will see the gardens are just absolutely beautiful. So she has this beautiful green hand where anything she puts her hand to, it grows. Wow. So she has these beautiful gardenias and port wine trees. You can't drink the trees. It's not that port wine, but it's the smell and the kakara smells that are around our marae. But that's her contribution. My mum is not a kaikaranga, but her contribution is is in the garden,
Mahi
and you
ngā
can
kai,
really
ngā
see
mahi.
that. So we're grateful.
Aye. No, definitely. That's, again, another beautiful kōrero, especially in regards to your papa, well, both, your papa, your mum, but because prior to our kōrero, Maraea, I actually, because I've never been to Ohaaki Marae before, but I had a look at some photos on the internet of the marae, and it is exactly like you say, it's beautiful. So was your papa one of those, because in the photos I've seen that it's that your marae, your wharenui, has got some carving outside. Was he one of those that, him and those young men who participated in putting that up, or?
Yes, I believe so.
Ka pai.
And especially the kōrero. Our kōrero is a depiction of our tupuna hine rake, and is one of the only, I don't see very many women who are the kōrero at the front of whare, and so they did that mahi. But and of course hine rake is our maunga. Hine rake was believed to have travelled from Te Kao. She was betrothed to a much older man at a time where she was this beautiful young Māori maiden, and she didn't want to have a bar of it, so she travelled by foot, mararo, all the way to the Awaroa Bridge, where she unclothed herself and made pingo clothing, and then made her way down the Awaroa River and landed just in front of Ohaaki, where she ended up staying.
Wow.
And ended up being one of those kuia who would later on gather up the remains or the bones of our loved ones and take them up to the cave where she ultimately stayed and died. So we have a maunga at the back of us. That is a very, he wahi, I'm not too sure if it's, to say tapu, but it's a wahi that we respect. And as a place where hine rake lays right now.
Ka pai. That's choice. It's a beautiful story, actually, again. So, coming back to the marae itself, as you mentioned, there's a lot of mahi that goes into keeping the marae running, spick and span for the next manuhiri and all of that. So, kōrero mai e tahi o ngā mahi i mahi koutou he tika, he whakahaere i tō koutou marae.
Kia ora. I think, again, stopping to acknowledge those who have left legacies for us to carry on with. So we couldn't have been how we are without the sacrifices and the work ethic and the hard mahi put in by those who have either gone before us or our trustees, prior trustees and our prior whānau. So I would like to acknowledge all the mahi that's been done by them tuatahi. For us now, we are blessed to have our whānau who live in the grounds at the back of the marae and in our what we call the kura. And the kura was our old convent school that was purchased and now is our caretaker's home. So we have our whānau, our waipori whānau, who help look after our marae, our grounds, and they do an absolutely beautiful job. What I love is that there is that intergenerational teachings, and our cousin and his wife do a beautiful job, not only teaching their children but helping them learn about kaitiakitanga. And for the rest of us, we each have our roles. With kaikaranga mahi, with cooking mahi, and prior to our interview, we were talking about our photos, and so making sure our photos all have names so that we can whakamana them, and whether that be just going down to help Mama Harata with her gardens, or dusting the photos or whatever it is just to keep our marae beautiful and clean for our next manuhiri, and teaching our manuhiri to look after it how they found it or even better. And so those are the teachings that we want to keep going.
No, kia ora. So there's, like you mentioned, different roles, and most Māori would know that, the different roles within the marae. You have your kaikaranga, you have your grave diggers, you have your cooks, you have your kaimihi, you have your cleaners, your workers, your everything. So my pātai is, what's your role within the marae? One of the trustees, or?
Kia ora. I have been a trustee for a little while now, and I feel really privileged because you get voted on by your iwi or your hapu.
Yes.
And so there's a trust there from the people who elect you to do the best job, and that's part of a whakatauki that my mama and my paps, or more so my paps, had shared. Me pono te kōrero ka tika te mahi.
Kia ora.
And so people have trusted you to do the best job and to do an honest job. So if we can share that, that's what we want to be doing. We want to encourage people to be involved and build unity. So there's a purpose of why we're there. And part of that is working as a whānau. Part of our role is working as a whānau to kohikoi, or to collate history and whakapapa, waiata, kōrero and tikanga, and to tautoko or reinforce Ohaaki aspirations in our te uri o taitanga, so that we don't have generations who are lost in the suburbs, and that they do know that there is a place that they can come home to.
Kia ora. Speaking about that, coming home, as we know, a lot of our whānau have moved to the cities for mahi and other purposes, and then whakarere i te kāinga. But have you got like wānanga or things happening at the marae where, other than tangis, that, to bring back your people and to teach them the kōrero of home, or how to do a karanga or how to do a mihi, things like that, kaupapa?
Definitely. I think part of our, and again, we mihi to those who have set some good standards with how, and some strategies along that. So part of our succession planning at our marae is to encourage those wānanga. And utilising Ohaaki and te uri o tai with a wide range of skills, knowledge and positive attitudes, that we can come back together and kōrero tahi, mahi tahi. So there's been wānanga reo, wānanga hitori. So we do that both with trustees and wider whānau, so that we can be encouraged and empowered to stand on our marae, on all three of our marae, to hold that knowledge and to walk confidently within ourselves and know that we belong to these amazing tupuna that walk the talk, or that kind of stuff, not just talk the talk, they walk the talk and did the mahi. We also have, so, you mentioned karanga. We have a karanga wānanga happening this month.
Oh.
And it's lovely. Our whanaunga over in Whangape, I see they had a wānanga, our whanaungas over there had a wānanga karanga, and it's absolutely beautiful to see. But it's come to a time where we actually have to do those wānanga, whereas opposed to, probably in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there's heaps of people who lived here. But, with that migration of suburban migration, to find mahi, and people have to find mahi, people have to live, that we now find people wanting to come home and learn those kaupapa, whether it be karanga or mihi or history. That's what so we've got those wānanga. We definitely have that as part of our succession planning. Do we need to do, more? Absolutely. Part of a mahi is to really try and involve our taitamariki too. From that age of 16 to 25, so to speak, or 35, and to really encourage that those roles being taken up.
Kia ora. Last couple of questions. Have you previously worked on any major projects, say, like recently, or have some coming up?
In terms of?
For example, some extra renovations on the ablution block, or...
Oh, yes. Oh, tēnā koe, Peter. I think we can attribute the works that are being done currently. So we were very grateful in succeeding part of the PGF funding, or the provincial growth funding for our marae.
Ka pai.
And we, part of our maintenance planning, we have all whether it be the ablution block or the wharekai, or so those were already in a maintenance plan. However, we were successful in receiving some of that funds from the PGF, which we're currently, there are currently works that are happening at the moment on our marae. So part of it was our 100-year-old marae, Maru o Te Huia, had some damage or some piro with some of its boards and windows. So it's a historical building. So you have to replace those with, as much as the original material as possible. Our ablution block is getting done, painting, little core hole in the roof. And because we have the westerly winds of the coast, we have some erosion with the sea wind coming on the west side of our buildings. So that fund was able to help us replace those windows and those latches that kind of get salted out and rusted. So yes, absolutely, we're very grateful for that, and again, thanks to some good team effort for getting those papers and those applications in.
Choice, because that's what it's kind of starting to be like these days in terms of looking after our marae. It's about working smarter rather than harder.
Tēnā koe. Ai.
Ka pai. So,
I think that's around kōrero tahi, mahi tahi.
Yep,
so
definitely.
If I can quote that one from one of my kani. And you don't have to agree with each other, but keep kōrero tahi and mahi tahi.
Aye, definitely. So, just to wrap us up, Maraea, any final kōrero to either your whānau that are listening from within your hapu, or even something that can inspire other marae listening, to help with their marae? Any kōrero, final kōrero?
Tēnā koe, Peter. Noho whakaiti nei ahau ki mua I te Maraea I tēnei taima.
Kia ora.
And I think each hapu has their own strengths, and if we can tap into those strengths and really listen to each other and look at the aspirations of what each marae or what their marae wants, and document that, and then look at how we can best work together and tap into each other's, again, the strengths.
Kia ora.
And really, tērā taku whakaro ko te mahi tahi. And if we can, koia, Peter, it's not a big koho, but just to learn to, I think if we have those aspirations at the forefront of our whether it be in a document form, in a picture form, and we go, hey, look, Hone down the road has this strength, or Mere has this one, and maybe they have 5 other people, and not just rely on the same people. We can reach out further. So my last kōrero is, and for those who are listening, and those who are from Pawarenga, no mai hoki mai. We are more than happy to share the mātauranga and to help each and every one of us grow, and to feel that they do belong. That's the other thing I've witnessed is some people don't know how to connect, or feel that they can't connect to certain marae or all of that. But if, we go back to rāhiri, ina he mokopuna koe he uri no rāhiri, we can connect to a lot of our marae right around the whole of the hokianga taitokerau. But for us at Ohaaki, and those of you who are listening, my whanaunga, e tamarama, no mai hoki mai. We have a few wānanga coming up. We welcome you. Koia. Tēnā koe, Peter.
Tēnā koe, Maraea. A tāhua ngā kōrero e pāna ki tō marae, ki tō hapu. And as I said before, I haven't actually been there yet, but...
no mai hara mai,
Peter. There will be a time, no doubt. Yeah, thank you. Mō tō whai wāhi te kōrero mai kia hau, me ngā kaiwhakarongo. Ai, a tāhua ngā kōrero. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Peter.
I ngā mana i ngā reo raurangatira mā. Tēnā rā koe te katoa. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei tāturanga e ki ana He Pukepuke Rau. Ei te rānei e kōrero ana hau ki taku manuhiri, anō hoki ko koia taku whanaunga, no te kāinga nei o Mangakahia tūturu. Ki konei ia e kōrero ana e pāna ki tō tāua nei marae e tū ana i kona a Parahaki. Ko atu ko tētahi o ngā kaipāpā ho tawhito konei ko Anaru Kaipo. E te whanaunga ka huri au ki a koe, e mihi atu ana ki a koe, hara mai ki runga i te whakauturanga. Ana reira, ka hoatu au te rākau kōrero ki a koe, whakamarama mai ko waino hea.
Ka pai hoa.
Ana reira, kia ora rā.
Tēnā koe hoki mō tēnei wahanga. Tēnā koutou, ngā kaitaringa, e mihi ana hau ki a koutou katoa, ko Anaru Kaipo a hau, he uri a hau no ngā whānau pau, no nuku tawhiti, Mangakahia, tēnei taha, tōku tupuna ingoa Kaipo no te tino nota, no te kao, Ngāti kuri, ngā neho pōpata i reira, te rārawa no hoki, ngā tamaho piri, ngā waru, o tēnei anō taha oku nā, no William Wallace, no Scotland a hoa. Engari, tēnei rā, mai wana ki taku pōtai Mangakahia, he hoa pērā i a koe. Nō reira anō nei, nā ku te honore e tai mai i te rangi nei ki te kōrero e pākau ake ana tēnei kaupapa. Pai te kitea tēnei whare, tēnei rūma, tēnei studio, maharau ki te wā, e nohana ki tō tūru tērā taha o te tepuna. Anaru in the morning, ai marika, dum, 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 every weekday 7 till 10, ai marika. Ia wā e hoa, e wera ana te tūru, e wera ana ngā waia, i te hunga e waia mai ana kia hau ki te reo irirangi engari, anō nei nāku anoto te honore, e kua riro tēnei tūranga mōku, i taua wā, mihana ki a koe mō tēnei kōrero, wāhanga kōrero e mara.
Nei, tēnā koe. Nā wau e tikana ka hara mai au no te kāinga no hei whakaki o hu.
Ai, tono pai tō mahi e ua pai te rongo ki tō kōrero, tō hari, ngā mea katoa ngā pānui e pānui tiana ki te iwi, no reire, he mahi tino nui tēnei. I aua wā hoki mahara ki te hunga katoa, ngā kai whakapāho tawhito o tēnei ruma, nā mana epeha, Tima Mao, Harawira, Mike Marsden, just te maha, te maha. No reira, pai te hara mai ki te kōrero e Hawaii Pākau ake ne tō tātou ne marae.
Ai, nā, tika ana. Nā, ko te marae e kōrero tia nei ko Parahaki. Tū ana ki roto i te takiwa nei o Nukutawhiti ki roto o Mangakahia, e meana i muara. Nā, ko anaru te hea mana o ngā tarahiti o taua marae anu hoki. Nā reire, tai mai e ki te kōrero e pāna ki ngā kaupapa o te marae raka no reira ka timata i konei. When was the marae kind of first established? I tū mai te hea tau.
Oh, that's right, I remember you were going to ask me that part. I was going to look at that. It was gazetted in the 50s. Actually, we were actually given some whenua from some whānau, and it became a Māori reserve, i Wawa. And it was actually a community hall i mua. And horeko mohi o ko wai, but it was moved on to the whenua there. Parahaki block there as a place to establish our marae. And so i mua i te marae he mea horo hāpori, and taku māma i tupu mai ki runga i te whenua rau o Nukutawhiti, e mahara ki te wā he horo mo te Tempen bowling.
Oh,
he horo anō mo te movie theatre. Se wera mea engari nai enei rā he marae mo tātou, he whare nui mo te kōrero, mo te moe, mo wera mea katoa. So it was in the early 50s when it was gazetted as a marae, as Parahaki Marae too. And why? So it's been a long time on the whenua there.
Tika ana. Kore au mohi o ki tēnā, pai ki te rongo i ngā kōrero. Nā, ko te nuinga o ngā marae, putanoi te motu, kaua ko te tautokera anake, hanga timata pērā, he horo hāpuri, pēnei a koutou. Nā pai. No reira, ai e meana hau, ko koe te hea mana o te marae, no reira, he hake ngā kaupapa o ngā mahi, ko oti a koutou, o ko ngā projects e hara mai ana, pēr?
Ai. Nui ngā mahi. Hoa, tēnei wātonu, ko au te hiamana, ko au te kai kōrero, te kai mahi, te kai keri, te kai tutu, te kai wiramea, pēra i a tātou, katoa e mahi ana ngā mahi te marae. Ko taku tino mahi ko te hiamana o taku marae. Tēnei rā, maho ngā mahi kei mui a tātou, ko tētahi, i kitea e tātou, tō mātou nei whare kai me te tuani, ko puta. That's happened just at the end of last year.
That's right.
Tai mai te hau, and our roof blew off our hoa. I te mea tawhiti rawa tō tātou nei whare kai, te tuanui. That was a big project that we've actually just finished in the last little while. I was actually just getting that fixed. We've got a couple of things going on at the moment. So our draft charter, those sort of things. We've been working on our charter for a little while, and it's in a draft space now. We'd like to apply for further funding, for further projects, so we can, whakapakari, whakapai tō tātou nei marae. So we're working through the draft charter, which is another thing, which is a foundation or a structural thing. It's probably one of the downfalls for, I don't know if we want to look at it as a downfall, but I guess it's one of the things that we as marae need to work on more, and that's providing the infrastructure. I te mea, nunui ngā mahi, mo ia marae, engari, toru noi hoa mātou i te kainge mahi ana te mahi, i te mea, Kua nuku atu te maho o mātou nei whānau ki etahi atu wāhi, ki tāmaki makauru, ngā taone katoa te motu, ki tā wāhi ki ahi te reiria me me etahi atu motu, engari tō mātou tino mahi, ki te hanga tētahi mea communication strategy, kia puta atu ki o mātou nei uri e noho ana ki tā wāhi ke, ngā kaupapa o te kāinga nei, me pēhia rātou e awhina mai. So, building the infrastructure, me pēhia tātou e whakahokia i ngā whānau ki te marae, e tahi taima kore tae ahoa. 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, our whānau have been living away, and now they have mokopuna that have been living there. We can't expect our whānau to uplift and come home. Rereke te āhuatanga, pokake rau e te āhuatanga o enei rā. Engari, technology. We had a Zoom hui with all of our trustees just the other night. We had Perth online, we had Sydney online, we had Tāmaki, Rotorua, Wellington, and mātou i te kāinga nei. We had them online. I'm in Dargaville, I zoomed on as well. But how do we utilize our technology? How do we utilize our communication means to be able to bring our whānau in? Our whānau aren't able to come back as iauwa wā. We all lived in the kāinga. We all lived close. If anything, we might have moved away to Whangarei, which was considered far then. But these, so we were able to stay connected and get the mahi done, but it's a little bit different now. So we just need to be a little bit more adaptable in the way that we're utilizing our abilities and our technologies to be able to get the mahi done. Our whānau, what hasn't changed is our whānau want to help. We just need to find out ways and times that we can allow the mahi to happen. Utilizing their skills and their contributions and their desire. They may not be able to come back 5 times a year, but they may be able to come back 1. They may be a great painter. When can you come back? September? Kapai, we'll make the job happen then. So you're over in Perth and you're a great minute writer. Well, we don't need you here to write minutes. Could you be our minute taker? We've got a whanaunga who's great at finances and accounts. Actually, nohana ki pōneke. Pai ana ko koe te accountant. And once a year, we'll send our stuff down to you so you can do the mahi. We're really trying to look at how we can build our infrastructure to allow us to fill the void of not having our whānau in the kāinga. So a draft charter, a communication strategy, a project plan. We received some putea a couple of years back to develop a plan. Because having a plan is important about what we want to do and when we're going to do it and how we're going to do it and where we're going to do it, how much it's going to cost and how we're going to get that putea, so all of those things.
Me paku whakatā ai tāua i tēnei wā, ka hoki mai ki ngā kōrero ako aki nei amuria ki ngā whakatairanga. Hoi nora, ko te rōpū hei tautoko mai i ngā kōrero no te kāinga no Mangakahia i whānau mai i roto i te marae o te aroha, i roto parakao. Engari ko ngā kaihaka o roto no ngā tōpito katoa o te taitokerau, ara ko te tārai o Rāhiri. Nei rā tō rātou tū i ngā whakataitai ārohe o te taitokerau 2010, are taringa mai.
Tēnei te tangi atu te polo ki kāna tau
kōrero ki Wainganui a Māua ko taku whanaunga Anaru Kaipo. E kōrero ana e pāna ki tōna marae o Parahaki, no roto mai te pokahu o Mangakahia.
The last few years have been focusing about just providing a bit of a foundation, the infrastructure, our trustees as well. Tēnei wā tonu ko au te mea tamariki ki ronga I tō mātou nei poari, a hākua tata nea whātekau o ku pakeke. But our nannies, our kuias, rātou tonu e mahi, tonu ana te mahi, it's like, āhua, me wero ki o mātou nei reanga, me whakaki au a tūru, kei a mātou te kaha, kei a mātou te mōhiotanga e pākau ake ana ngā technology hau o nei rā. So we need to take up those roles. We need to utilize our ability to incorporate the technology that we have. But what we also need to do, which is one part of our infrastructure we're developing, is that if our nannies and our kuia are able to move away from the trustee roles and move away from the mahi roles and the komiti roles, and actually hei noho kāhui, hei noho korowai, ne?
Kuia,
Ai. And because here's my analogy, ahua. For a long time, at the marae, when you're feeding our whānau, nui rawa te mea kōhua. And I've got these big spoons turning it, turning the kai, and that's been our nannies ahua. But ngengiana, they're getting kuia. But what, we still need them. So it's our time to pick up that spoon. It's our time to start, turning the kai. It's our time to start putting, using the kaha. But at the end of the day, I still ask my mum to come and taste my kai. She tastes it. She says, oh, a little bit of this, boy. She goes, oh, too much of that, boy. Oh, actually, what about try this? That's where we need to get our kuia to, our kaumātua. That's where we need to still have them there. Because sometimes, maroke rawa tonu taku kai ahua, and I'm thinking, because I forgot that part. I knew I should have come and asked you, Nan. We don't want to get to that ahua. We don't want to get to a stage where we think us young ones know it all. And actually, no, rere ke tāhua tango e nei rā, we've got different ideas. No, kahore. The foundational tikanga, the foundational knowledges will always stay the same. And it's with them. And so we just need to ensure that we're doing the hard yards and we're doing the mahi. We're going to get the mince and get the kai, and we're going to bring it back and coordinate it all, and we're going to put it in the pot and put it all together. And then at the end, some of them not even at the end, they'll come halfway through because you get to the end, it might be already burnt. Hey, so they say, hey. So, we just need them walking around, just making sure that they don't have to do the mahi. But their mahi is in another space now where they can come and taste our kai, they can come and check that the whare has been set up correctly. They can maybe, check that the whare nui, the reason why we don't put the table over there, because people walk around and then you get a jam over here, boy. And I'm like, I didn't even see that, Nen. Oh, you're clever, all right. Yep. Okay. So we're in a bit of a space of really setting up the infrastructure stuff so we can, again, we can pass over the baton, I guess. And then we can, there's some amazing funding and resourcing and support that's out there for our whānau these days in our marae. But we also need to be in a space where we can deliver on that, ne? And to receive these fundings, to be able to do some stuff for our marae and to bring our people in. So a lot of that going on. But we have, like I said, we've got a little bit of funding that we're doing. A couple of projects. We've got our draft charter, which we're finalising at the moment. It's just fantastic. First time we've had a real robust full charter for a long time. We've got a Mahi Mara project as well. I believe, I believe it's with Te Pone Kokiri. So they've given us some putia, and we've got a number of our whānau out there who have just made some garden boxes. They've got some planting happening. We've got an orchard being put up. It's going to be all gated and all fenced in that. And also it's including the local kura, pakotai, are also going to be including an educational element, so they can come up to the marae, help with the gardening, get some understanding of the mahi mara, and also reap the rewards and the fruits. And so we're building that sustainability to allow our tamariki and our mokopuna to understand what our nannies were doing a long time ago. E ahua, e nei rā, tai mai te COVID now. Oh, mataku rawa te honga nei. They're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? We can't go to a supermarket. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? E ahua, our kaumatu kuia, kata ane ahua. Really? E ahua. So actually, we don't want to be in that position, ahua. We need to be in a position where, kua kati ngā mea supermarkets pai ana, mohi ana tātou, kei hia ngā tuna, kei hia ngā mea puha, kei hia ruruhau, kei kone ngā mahi mara nui rawa te kai, and how we can get to that position. It's funny because the way forward is actually going back ahua. Hey, e nei rā, ko te reo e ngaru ana, ngā tikanga hoki, ahua ngā etahi tikanga e nei, wā pō he rawa. And it's like, actually, the way forward for us is back. So we've got the Mahi Mara project, and thank you to our whānau actually out there this weekend that are doing that and continuing that mahi. We just had our trustee meeting the other day to finalise our draft charter and stuff. And the next stage going forward, we've got a number of things around just whanaungatanga. How do we bring some life back to the marae? How do we bring some longevity in our whānau back to the marae, and whakapai whare. So the next big part of our marae that we're going to be looking at is also around our kitchen, our kouta. So we've been able to get some funding, done some fundraising and get some putia in from our whānau to be able to purchase some new whiteware. Ai ni pēa huaha, ka tū tētahi kauta, tino flash pera I o koutou nei marae taroha, ne? Te marae miri o na tāre but working on our kitchen. Those sort of things there, because te mutinga o te rā, hea te tino mahi o te marae, ko te manakitanga ki te iwi. And to ensure that our manakitanga is steadfast, and we have all the resources and the tools that we need to ensure that our manaki is maintained. Pērā ki ngā mātua tupone e wawa, that's some of the mahi that's going on for us anyway.
Yeah, ka pai. And I just want to, touch on your kōrero there, like you said, the way forward is to go back. And it's kind of like that kōrero, to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. Pono. So just while we're talking about that, we touched on a little bit of like the marae sitting on the Parahaki block itself. He hau etahi o ngā kōrero me ki hitori. Like, I know that, we all share the same awa. We got the same awa that goes through the whole valley of Mangakahia. But I also know that we have different maunga and we have different hapu, So, tēnā kōrero mai awa kōrero.
Ka pai ahua. Ahua ko tērā tētahi take nunui kei roto I a mātou o Parahaki Marae. Ko hinga te katoa mātou nei kaumātua. Ko hau te kaumātua I nei rai engari, like it says, tata ki te whātekau o kupakeke, and he kaumātua hau no kahore. Engari, ko hinga o rātou nei kōrero ki ala tāno. So part of our mahi as well, of bringing our plan that we've put together, is about our kōrero o te kāinga. I te mea, mai rā no mātou e kōrero ana ko tō mātou nei maunga tarai o rahiri. Engari, ki etahi, no kahore, he ana boi tō mātou nei tino maunga ko tute moi. And sure. Engari, I ngā tau e rima kua hipa, mea mai tētahi kuia ki a mātou, nā ko tō mātou nei maunga I roto I nuku tawhiti ko Pātiki. Ko Pātiki te maunga. Ai te mea I aua wā, tai mai te Pātiki, te mea Flander, ki roto I a mātou nei rohi o nuku tawhiti. Not anymore these days in terms of the flounder and those things, but so mau mātou ki tērā kōrero, nā tō mātou nei mahi tēnei wā, te whai i ngā kōrero e pākau ake ana te maunga o Pātiki, te mea ka hore mātou e mōhio keihia Pātiki. Engari titiro atu ki mua o te marae, he maunga ki reira, pērā te hanga o te Pātiki. Nā kia mātou o ko Pātiki tēnā, but we need to make sure, so we're not teaching our tamariki ana, ko Pātiki tēnā, o he ana e a Pātiki's at the back bay. So our maunga, those things there, ko Parahaki hoki, te ingoa o Parahaki. I te mea, te wai tamariki anau, mea te ki taku kaumātua, hea te tikanga o te ingoa Parahaki, na, hore kau ia mōhio. He says, whaia tō kaumātua, ko tāna ingoa, nā, ko wipau, ne? Mohina koe matua wipau, me o nā poka. Kia mātou nei, kei reira ngā kōrero katoa o mātou i nuku tawhiti, nā tō tātou tupuna wipau i tuhingia i roto i o nā puka, ngā kōrero o tō mātou nei kāinga. Nuku tawhiti hoki, mohi ana tātou i te kōrero rāhiri hikoi ki runga i te marae, i te maunga rāna, ko tutaki ahu aiti i roto i a Ngāpuhi. Hei, ko tērā tētahi o ngā kōrero e hoa, te timatanga o Ngāpuhina ke roto i a mātua Mangakahia, nei?
Mohi o hau ki tērā kōrero. Tāua tēnā.
A te ingo te pā,
Māta pā.
Ko te māta pā i roto i pakutai nāna, i te pā o ahu aiti, nā ka pota ko ua nuku, nāna te tamaiti tuatahi o rāhiri. O rāhiri o Ngāpuhi. Māku ahu, nāku ahu tētahi waiata i tito, e pākau ake ne tērā mea. Ne ahakua ko lea we mutu, a ene pēr hua, we'll come and sing it, we'll learn it also. Kia mōhio, Ngāpuhi whānui, te kōrero tika nā, ko Ngāpuhi, ko te timatanga o Ngāpuhi ki kone. Nā, just kōrero. Kōrero kata e hua, but...
Engari pono.
Engari pono. So, tētahi o taku huarahi, tō mātou nei huarahi tēnei wā, ki te kohi ngā kōrero o aua wā. I te mea ko ngā nannies, o tēnei rā, ono te kaurima, whitu te kau, te pakeke, te kaumātuatanga, engari ko te kōrero hohoni, te kōrero o tawhito rawa, i mua i a rātou. My nannies were the nannies that moved away in the 50s. To Auckland, to Hamilton and all of that, and now hoki mai ki te marae, ki te mahi ngā mahi. And our last kaumātua, matua Ben Wihongi, Diamond, passed away a few years ago as well. So was trying to grab some of that knowledge and some of that kōrero before he passed on. So there's a number of kōrero, there's a number of things that sort of haven't been finalized, but one of our I guess work streams, for want of a better word, is that we're going to work collectively on finding some of these puka, collating some of this kōrero. We've been also collating some of our whakapapa as well, because tō mātou tino tupuna ko Pouterata. Actually, from what I understand and from what I've gathered in the kōrero that has been really hard to find, is that ko tahi rau noiho te roa o te wā e nohana ki roto e nuku tawhiti I mua I tērā I tai mai tainui. I reira, so, following some of that kōrero as well. Ātutu, te ingoa tō mātou nei urupa. Engari, anō nei, me atu ki taku kaumātua, hea te tikanga tō mātou nei urupa, hore koe mōhio boy. Like, he ingoa anō, that we don't have a grasp of or a knowledge of. We haven't got anything written at the moment. We didn't have, I guess, that sense of writing it. But at that time, like it says in the 40s and the 50s, with many of our whānau and our kaumātua moving away, the kōrero has gone too. But I know it's there. I know that it will come back. We've got to bring our people back. We've got to bring our whānau back. Find that expertise, find the people that can help some of these work streams, collectivise their kōrero o hua, and then kia ako ki a mātou nei mokopuna, kia mōhio rātou, mō ake tonu atu e hua. So ko tērā taku tino mahi tēnei wā.
Well, nui rawa o mahi. Actually, that brings me into my final question, because most of the kōrero that you've provided, whakautu i ngā pātai.
Ka
pai
pai.
tēnā. Nō reira, I a koe I tō tūranga chairperson. What's some of the pros and cons of that? I can imagine there'd be quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot of cons e hoa. E hoa, aha ko iti ngā pros I roto I tēnei mahi e hoa, nunu ngā cons. E hoa, you know, anō nei, naku te honore. Hoki mahara ki o mātene kaumātua kukuia, nā rātou tēnei tūru I mau, nā rātou tēnei waka I timata, nā rātou ngā mahi I timata, anō nei nāku te honore, nā taku iwi, nā taku whānau, nāku whānau katoa te marae I whakatohungia ko Aotearoa mana, e mihana. Anō nei he honore tāku te mau ki tēnei o ngā tūranga. Nui ngā haora, roa ngā haora, atu I te mahi. Engari, you know, the chairman e hoa, and this is a great time to share this kōrero e hoa. Because the chairman of a marae, the chairman of a hapu, the chairman of an iwi should never change. Not the position. What I'm talking about is the way in which we conduct ourselves in the position. I think it's come from a colonial perspective that the chairman has the mana, that the chairman has some sort of standing above all of those around him. He tēnā kōrero e hoa. And I think this needs to be said a lot more. And I think it needs to be proclaimed to our peoples that the chairman is only, kia hau nei, te māngai o te katoa ke muri. And that the chairman, my role and my responsibility is try to bring all of our kōrero together. Hey? Hei whakararangitia, hei whakararangatia, weaving that kōrero together for all of our, not only our trustees, because the trustees are only representatives of their whānau, right? And to ensure that we can weave all of that kōrero together with love, because being a forceful chair, being a chair that pounds on his chest, hey? Ko Aotearoa mana, nāku I kōrero pēnei, no he tēnā I hoa. We need to leave that aside. We need to push it aside and leave it aside. My mahi e hoa is the hardest part of my mahi is the bringing it all together. And that's why our hui have a 2-hour time limit on it, and it ends up at 4. And because we're too worried about time and actually getting our hui done in time and getting it finished in a timely manner, because sometimes disruption, or as it's looked at, or sometimes elongating the process. They say, oh, no, we don't have time. We need to get it done. We need to make a decision. It needs to be fast, and then the chairman has the final decision. No, kahore. Kia hau nei, I would like to think that my people would appreciate my approach in terms of trying to bring our kōrero together. I have been blessed, thanks to our Lord, with skills, a certain set of skills that allow me to talk, to understand lots of information, to bring all that information together. And, I guess it'll be my people will be the judge of that, and whether or not I do it in a loving way. Hey, I've been there for 7-8 years now, so I must be doing all right.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
We just had a kōrero with our trustees just the other night on Zoom, and we says, well, maybe we need to put all our roles up for position again, so we can bring some new blood in there. And they all, no, kahore, you stay there. And I says, well, at the end of the day, our people would decide who sits there. That's right. So we'll have our kōrero, we'll have our hui, and everybody will have the opportunity to put themselves forward, because at the end of the day, it's my people who direct me to be there. It's my people who also direct the kōrero in which should come out my mouth. I have merely just been blessed with some skills, thanks to the Lord above, with some skills that allow me to hold this position. But you'll also find me in the kitchen still washing some dishes. You'll also you'll also see me on the taumata doing some kōrero. Hey, it was 2 weeks ago I was out there mowing the lawns. We're going out again on the weekend to whakapai tō tātou nei mattress room in the whare there. You know, because the chairman should never put himself above any role. The chairman should never put himself above any person in a kōrero. Kia hau nei, koira tāku nei whakaore noi. So, lots of hours, lots of expectation, lots of raru, you know, lots of, being a counsellor, a mediator, a negotiator between, lots of responsibility and roles that come on top of that as well. But i te motunga o te rāua, nākua no te honore mau ki tēnei tūranga, ki te mahi o ngā mātua tupuna i te mea nā rātou tēnei timata. And I think of my babies, I think of my mokopuna, and I think of their mokopuna and all of our mokopuna. And we need to ensure that we can set a good foundation. And a foundation of how we're going to work together based on love, i te mea, te aroha te mea nui, and ensuring that we hold on to the foundational tikanga that allowed us to get here and use it in a way that we can adapt to the future that's coming at us and forever changing our hoa. So koira tāku e mana.
No, pai, I have to tautoko that because, as you can imagine, I've spoken to quite a few different chair people from different marae who all have the similar kind of kōrero as you, and that they're merely, well, a tono. They like to describe themselves as being the tono for the iwi. You know, not so much the kai whakahaere, engari ko te tono. So, yeah.
Etahi taima that, etahi taima, you have to be able to make some hard decisions.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
The hard thing about being a chairman is that you're never going to get everybody on board.
No, that is good. Not everyone's going to agree.
But if they understand the way in which was done, they don't have to agree with the decision, but they understand the process, that it was fair, it was just, it was pono, it was open, it was transparent, it was done with love. Those also who disagree can agree to disagree because, again, it's we understand that it's for the collective good o tātou katoa.
Kia ora. Just very quickly, hei whakakapi a tāua nei kōrero, and beautiful kōrero, by the way.
Of course.
Ia tētahi mea motuhake ki tō marae. Like, what makes, and I say this, ask this question, just, because they say kōrero, kāri te kumarei kōrero mo tōna reka, engari, what do you believe that makes your marae and your people unique?
Te mea tuatahi i te toru noi hoa mātou. Ko tētahi mea motuhake unique pia kia mātou. Our hoa, we have held some huge hui, tangi, huraku hatu, wera mea. Te kau noi hoa mātou e hakahaere ana ngā mea. If there's one thing I feel is unique, but at the same time that has just made me, I guess, so proud, because it wouldn't be so unique to many of our marae out there, is that we only have a few people, but we can get some big mahi done. And we will continue to do that. There's been times where, our whare kai was down, was out. Our whare nui was down and out. But we erected tents, we brought in tools that allowed us to ensure that we could hold our tikanga and uphold our manakitanga. And so if there's one thing that I'm super proud and blessed to have as whānau that are adaptable, and we will make sure that our tikanga, we will make sure that our manakitanga is always upheld, regardless of the resources and the tools that we have. The adaptability to be able to make it happen. Ahakoa toru noi hoa mātou e mahi ana. We will get it done again for our tupuna and for those who have laid the pathway, lay the foundation for us. Manakitanga is key.
Ngā mihi. Nā reira, e mihi ana kia koe te whanaunga e Anaru, e hara mai ki te kōrero, e pānaki waho a Maraea nei marae i te kāinga. And, te atahua o mahi, te mahi o tō hapu.
Kia
Ai.
ora. Koutou hoki ahua, you know, like I says, I'm very envious of Taroha Marae. And you know, I see especially things like the urupa, you know, and they have the mowing, you know, and ia marama he whānau rereke, you know, e mahi ana te mahi, and you all have your work schedule, and hua, you know, every whānau that turns up on the month, you know, has 8, 9, 10 of them doing it, and I'm thinking, man, that's awesome. You know, the mahi that you've done as a marae to, you know, to establish the new wharekai, and to keep it looking the way it is, you know, we've got our kaumātua kuia flats that are still there, you know, housing our people. You know, so one thing I will leave on this tuahua is that as a kōrero that hasn't quite come to fruition, when it has come to fruition sometimes, in times of past, it's been a powerful reflection of the matua's kōrero that was given. And it was that the strength of Mangakahia is in all of us, yeah? Of all of our marae.
Kia ora. Tika.
Individually, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. Kora kota e hua, tatanea mano, tahi mano, ngā bloody tamariki reira. Hey, huge numbers. And the mahi that they're doing and the fundraising that they're doing. And pakotai and te reo rahiri and taroha and maungarongo, Parahaki, we each have our strengths, we each have our weaknesses. I remember the kōrero that was given when they talked about the strength of our 5 marae together. Te riu o Mangakahia. We've had some kōrero in past as well about some of our mahi together around how do we revitalise our reo, how do we revitalise our tikanga, how do we revitalise our history and our kōrero. We'll get there, hua. I know we will. I know we're going to get there, and I know that it's going to be in the collective nature and the collective movement together of ngā marae rima o Mangakahia, and how we're going to do that together for our mokopuna and their mokopuna. So I'm looking forward to that space ahua. And you know, mihi atu kia koe anō nei mō tēnei wāhanga mōku kia haramai te kōrero e pākau ana tō tāua nei marae, me tō tāua nei whenua. Te āhuatanga, te tāhuatanga, te mana I roto e Mangakahia, te wāhi tūtahi o Ngāpuhi, moi hoke koutou now, the iwi, but just appreciate this opportunity to have a kōrero to our whānau that are listening as well, e mihi kauana ki a koutou mā te atua koutou mana ki tiaki I ngā wakatoa.
Ko ia tērā ko te whakaaturanga motuhake o He Pukepuke Rau mo tēnei wiki. Hoki mai a tērā atu wiki kia rongo ai I ngā kōrero e pāna ki tētahi atu marae ko tō marae pēa. No reira mō tēnei wā ngā manakitanga o te rungarawa ki runga I a koe me tō whānau, mai a mātou I konei o Ngāti Hine, e mihi atu ana, tēnā koutou katoa. Mai ngā awa, ki ngā moana, ki te whenua, ki ngā kāinga, ki ngā tāngata, tai atu ki ngā tihitapu o ngā maunga. Tēnei, a Pukepuke Rau, Puke Rau, Puke Rau.
He mea tau toko nā te manga. Hei pāho.